What we've seen over the last couple of months and maybe even 2 or 3 years in the immediate analysis is somewhat of a backtracking from the globalism. And so if you think of the pullout in Afghanistan, if you think about Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the US and NATO's refusal to directly participate, if you think about the potential conflict between China and Taiwan, if you think about supply chains and manufacturing trying to be reshored within the United States after the COVID-19 pandemic, like there's all these little data points that on the face, each individual one doesn't seem super important. It definitely is noteworthy. It makes headlines, but it doesn't tell the full story. But when you then add them up, it does feel like there's a shift from a pure globalization is good to now maybe nationalism is good to some degree. How do you think about, through the lens of so many different philosophers and the learning of history, about this shift from potentially a globalism kind of pursuit to something that is more nationalistic and maybe not so interested in the integration on a global scale?
Well, you're right that there are these several events taking place. We'll probably see more of them. And in some way, that's the fault line. The globalists want to make sure that all of those conflicts are resolved in the direction of a stable globalist world. And other people want to exploit them to have the alternative take shape. Well, this too is an old problem. Just think about the Tower of Babel. Can we have a unified humanity? Is that desirable? Is it possible? Or is it necessary to have humankind scattered into multiple communities, speaking multiple languages? So as we're recording this, there's a national conservatism conference taking place, organized by Yoram Hazony, who defends a world order of nations and who opposes a globalist agenda. And there is a competition now, I would say, in the intellectual space of alternatives that may not be strictly nationalistic. They could be something else, including Dugin's. Dugin, this is weird for people because we don't have all the distinctions we need to think clearly about this, but Dugin is not a nationalist in a sense. And in fact, Russian nationalists often don't like him. He's more of an imperialist, and he tends to defend large spaces of a multi-ethnic or multinational kind, but not all the way to global. So we're like in a situation where eras are ending and there's this ferment about what will come next. And it's another reason why it's so important to study creative thinkers, okay? To study people who are articulating alternatives. What will come next? What should come next? What might it look like? So I'll give you an argument, One is that a globalist world is not possible because there's always going to be some spirited desire to have the dignity and honor of your particular community better represented. Somehow to become part of the globalist world, there's a lot that you have to give up. And not everybody's so ready to give up things that they hold dear. So, if you're going to defend the things you hold dear, that's like trying to puncture the shield or, the front of the globalist world. So that's just a simple psychological fact of the human soul. We're not willing to suppress our desire for honor. And there's a loss of honor somehow in becoming part of the globalist world. This is both an old question, as I say with the Tower of Babel example, and one where we have to find new solutions to it. Dugin's model, many civilizations. Yoram Hazony's model, national traditions, nations, nation states. That's what we have to stick to. Other people may have some other alternative. But what I think everybody can sense is that the order of world affairs is in the process of being renegotiated from a bipolar world to a unipolar world to now we have a question mark. If Russia gets, how could you put it? If Russia is not successful in its war or in its special military operation, if it's not successful in asserting its state sovereignty and civilizational sovereignty, that's a setback from the point of view of opposition to globalism. And that's a big win for the supporters of globalism. So all of the things that are happening geopolitically, they have this ideological, moral, theoretical, philosophical dimension. And it's in the air right now because there's been no decisive blow. You could say that Trump's victory was a kind of anti-globalist moment. Biden's victory was a one, put one back into the globalist side. But now with all of these conflicts that you mentioned, we don't know yet the final state of affairs. But a lot's at stake, more than just, the totalitarian country lost and the democratic country won, or vice versa. The worldview behind the scenes that's at stake in all of these battles is a little bit deeper and more complex than that. From the point of view of the globalists, it's pretty simple. It's totalitarian states versus dictatorships, the open society versus its enemies. But, if we look from the side, we have to consider the alternative.
Hey, you, did you like this video? Great. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, and see you next time.